Hello, this is topic 6-3 on factoring trinomials. So let's just go ahead and continue practicing on how we factor trinomials. To do this, I'm going to continue using the box method. I'm going to go ahead and draw my 2x2 box. Now, my first number goes in my first box. My last number goes in my last box. And I need my product and my sum. Well, my product comes from multiplying these two boxes. So this would just be negative 30s squared. And my sum comes from my middle term, negative 13s. So I need to figure out what multiplies to negative 30 and gives me 13. 101 and negative 30. 2 and negative 15. And I can stop right there because I know that 2 minus 15 is negative 13. So that gives me 2s, negative 15s, and then s and s will give me s squared. S times 2 gives me 2s. S times a negative 15 gives me a negative 15s. And negative 15 times 2 gives me a negative 30. So my answer would be s minus 15, s plus 2. Now, the reason the 15 is negative, not the 2, is because my sum was negative, so I needed the larger number to be negative. Let's go ahead and take a look at example number 2. Again, I'm going to start with my box. And I need my product and my sum. Well, the first number goes here. Well, 5 times 5 gives me 25q squared. And my sum is a negative 3q. Let's go ahead and find my factors of 25. Well, that would be 1 times 25, which gives me 26. Or 5 times 5, which gives me, or 5 plus 5, which would give me 10. And that's all of my factors of 25. It's the only things that I can divide 25 by. And none of them add up to negative 3. And so that means that this is, in fact, prime. There's no way that I can factor this. And so my answer is just that this is prime. For example number 3, let's see if we can work this one out. We have 2r squared and negative 14. When I multiply those, I get a negative 28 r squared. My sum is a positive 3r. So what multiplies to 28, negative 28, and will give me a positive 3? Well, negative 1 and 28, negative 2 and 14, negative 4 and 7. Well, this right here, when I add them together, gives me a positive 3. So that means I've got a negative 4r, and I've got a 7r. Now the question is, I need to get 2r. Well, the only way to get 2 is to have 2 and 1. So one of these has to be 2r, and the other one has to be r. Well, 2 will not give me 7, therefore I need 2r over here because I can get 4, and r over here. 2r times a negative 2 gives me a negative 4r. r times 7 will give me a 7r. And 7 times negative 2 gives me negative 14. So that means that I'm at r minus 2. And 2r plus 7. All right. And for the last example on this page, before we jump to our next page, I know this is 10y squared, that's 7. I need product and sum. Well, 10 times 7 is 70y squared. And my sum is negative 19y. Well, 70 is 1 and 70. And because I need to add up to a negative number, these both need to be negative. That doesn't give it to me. Negative 2 and negative 35. That doesn't add up to negative 19. Negative 5 and negative 14. Well, this does. And so I can stop there even though I know there are more factors. So that will give me a negative 5y and a negative 14y. And now the 10 is the tricky part. I know that I can do 1 and 10 or 2 and 5. Well, I can't use 10 to get 5, and I can't use 10 to get 14. Therefore, it's not that one. It must be 2 and the 5. Well, 2 will get me 14, and 5 can give me 5. So this must be 2y and 5y. Well, 5 times a negative 1 is a negative 5. 2 times a negative 7 is a negative 14. And a negative 7 times a negative 1 gives me a positive 7, giving me the answer of 2y minus 1, 5y minus 7. Just practice on using the box method to solve problems. And here we've got a new example, and like the scared guy is saying, we have two variables. We're still going to work it the same way. I'm going to draw a box, and this time I might make my box a little bit longer because I've got more to fit in here. That's 4y squared, negative 3x squared, and my product and sum. Well, 4 times negative 3 is a negative 12, y squared, x squared. And my sum still comes from the middle. That would be 4xy. So I still figure out what multiplies to negative 12, and we'll add to a positive 4. Well, negative 1 and 12 is 11. Negative 2 and 6 will give me 4. So that's a negative 2xy and a 6xy because I need xy in my sum. Now, to get 4, I can either use 1 and 4 or 2 and 2. Well, 4 will not multiply to 2. 4 will not multiply to 6. Therefore, that's done. But I can get 2 to multiply to 2 and 6. So this must be 2y and 2y. Well, 2y times a negative x will give me negative 2xy. And 2y times 3x, well, 2 times 3 is 6, xy. And 3x times a negative x will give me a negative 3x squared. So this is my factors, 2y minus x, and 2y plus 3x. So this is essentially the same thing, we just have to write more letters. Let's go ahead and take a look at number 6. Do my box. U squared, V squared, my product and my sum. Well, U squared, V squared is my product, and my sum is 2UV. Now, when you don't have a number in front, then that number is 1. So essentially, I need to figure out what multiplies to 1 and adds to 2. Well, that's simple. 1 and 1. So that would be 1 UV and 1 UV. And I don't need the ones. I can just settle it at UV. So U times U gives me U squared. U times V gives me UV. U times V gives me UV. And V times V gives me V squared. So this means that it is U plus V, U plus V, or a better way to write that would be U plus V, and all that is squared. This being the best way to write the answer. And now for the last example, problem number 7. (5k squared, negative 2n squared). My product and sum, well, 5 times negative 2 is a negative 10, k squared, n squared. My sum, a negative 3, kn. And what multiplies to negative 10? That will give me negative 3. Well, 1 and negative 10, that's not going to do it. 2 and negative 5, that will, because 2 minus 5 is a negative 3, so this would be 2 kn, negative 5 kn. Well, in order to get 5, that's just 1 and 5, so this would be 5k times k, because I can't use 5 to multiply to 2. And that would be 2, because k times 2 is 2n, because k times 2n will give me 2kn. And this would be negative 1n, because 5k times a negative 1n is a negative 5k. And a negative 1n times a 2n will give me negative 2n squared. So that leaves me with 5k plus 2n, and then k minus n, because I don't need to write that 1. So, this is just more of following the box method, following the steps that are given. First number, last number, product, sum, figure out what multiplies to the product, adds it to the sum, figure out what needs to go on the outside of your box to get your answer. Good luck on your assignment and have a good day.